What's going on, guys? Just got done with a run to kind of clear my head a little bit and just kind of exercise. I haven't done a lot of cardio in a while. Let's just say I didn't do super well. I was exhausted after about maybe a mile, maybe a mile and a half, a couple inclines on the path I ran. But I wanted to make this video because I really wanted to kind of comment on the current state of Escape from Tarkov and what I really think are the reasons as to why people are taking a step back. This year, I've done more variety on YouTube as well as the Twitch streams than I have my entire 5 years streaming. And a lot of that really has to do with the fact that Tarkov has not had any significant content or any significant gameplay changes which have changed the same rudimentary gameplay loop that we've had really since the introduction of the flea market. What do I mean by that? Players are still incredibly fast. People still jiggle peek you at 100 MS or faster, depending on their strength level. Level 5 and 6 armor and ammo that can defeat level 5 and 6 armor is still pretty readily abundant throughout the entire game, whether that's at the traders, the loot economy, in the hideout crafts, or available on the flea market. And because of this, EFT has kind of had the same downward spiral after about 60 to 90 days in a wipe that we have had since the introduction of the flea market and labs. Why is that a bad thing? Well, anything in excess is bad. Anything in a game like Tarkov where there is essentially a lot of predictability, a lot of the same gameplay loops, and a lack of dynamics make the game boring and repetitive. I like to think everybody who plays Tarkov, everyone from the super sweaty players to the people who can only maybe play a couple hours a week, all play it because it's a very harsh, brutal game in which it is incredibly hard to predict exactly what you're going to encounter each and every raid. EFT hasn't been able to really make any of these significant changes to either the gameplay loop, content, or just general gameplay due to the fact that the community has grown massively. And we have had a massive influx of newer players who have only gotten into the game probably within the past year and a half, really since drops. And a lot of these players have a twisted vision on what EFT is really supposed to be compared to the dedicated loyal fans who have been around since 2016. A lot of these viewers and or fans of the game came in watching guys like Landmark and Pistilli, just absolutely W King through everybody and using crazy min-max kits, hoarding out tons of loot every single raid, and people just kind of assumed that that is how the game would be for everyone. But really, that's the furthest thing from the case. And I believe it's kind of created this elitist mentality among the community where you have the people who play all day and love the current metas and love to abuse them to their advantage because it makes them win. And then the players who are just kind of on standby, who just kind of play the game somewhat casually and, are only going in, the raids with maybe level 3 or 4 armor and regular moderately modded weapons with, okay recoil, but nothing like these min-maxed kits that, people are used to watching streamers use. And because of that, it's really created this divide, not only within the community, but also at Battlestate in terms of how they develop their game. Because there's so many people who are so comfortable with the way the min-max culture of the game is and how overly repetitive a lot of the metas have been for a long time, whenever they're changed, even in the slightest degree, there's a small vocal minority of people who just lash out and attack Battlestate all over social media because of said changes. The best example that I can give for this was the weight system when it was originally implemented to be quite punishing. When you got debuffs starting at about 15 kilos and you could only carry up to about 60 kilos out of your raid. I really wish BSG would have left it that way, because if that was still the case, it would take longer for pretty much everybody to make more money because, getting out 40 to 50 kilos was very punishing. And mind you, that's quite a lot of weight. I don't know if you guys have ever put that amount of weight in a bag and walked around with it, let alone wearing a full combat load with a weapon. It's quite tiring and cumbersome. And when that was originally implemented, it really made the characters feel like you were heavy, and any gear that you wore, really slowed you down. Whereas if you compare that to right now, even with the recent changes to the weight system, you can still wear an Alta and a Slick, a chest rig full of mags and a huge backpack and still have minimal debuffs to your movement speed, your ergonomics, and your sprinting consumption for your stamina. A lot of these things have really held back the game. And again, kind of going back to the weight system, like if it was still as punishing, the current gameplay loop at which we progress through the game would be much different because of the amount of loot that we would not be able to bring out of raids. It would also heavily reward insurance because a lot of the stuff that players would bring into a raid most likely wouldn't be taken out by other players due to the weight of the items. It would be that much more of a high risk trying to get out of the raids. However, if you were the type of player that really wanted to fill your bag up and, you know, get out very slowly, you could invest that money into some stimulants to, you know, help you get out of the raid quick, or you could just risk it being slow as fuck walking to extract, and that risk reward was kind of matched. But then the small vocal minority and some streamers were so against the weight system because it was the first time that the game had a significant change in which the former way you played the game was no longer viable anymore. You couldn't just bring in all of the guns and the armor and the magazines and the grenades and fill your bag up and just sprint out to the extract. It wasn't that easy anymore. Because it was such a significant change to the way that we played the game, a lot of players had a very negative knee-jerk reaction to it, which I think was really stemmed by other broadcasters and streamers and content creators who kind of pushed that narrative of like Chad gameplay. Really, the game just needs not necessarily content. I think everybody wants content, myself included, but more so than that, I just think the game needs actual Tarkov gameplay changes. It needs to feel more hardcore. It needs to be less of a min-max culture. While I'm not against metas or min-maxing by any degree, when you can go to the flea market and get the same weapon and run the same kit every single raid just because you have the money, that ruins the dynamic and the importance of that gear. Back in the alpha, like having an M4 mattered. Like having a modded M4 was like a big deal, even for like players like me who played all day. Granted, the game didn't have as many items back then, but you know, it was a completely different experience because the gear that you brought out of your raids really mattered. And the gear that you found off other players really mattered. And it was important to you. Where now it's like, oh, I got killed by 762 BP again. Oh, another guy with a mutant. Oh, look, another guy with a slick. Oh, another guy with an airframe or an exfil or a U-lock. None of these items feel special because they're normalized, because they're so available. Whether that's through the flea market or you find them in raids or you find them on players bringing them into raids that you kill. Overall, I think my point is just that the community is what really I think needs to change the most when it comes to Escape from Tarkov. And also, I really hope that Battlestate tightens the noose a bit, or, you know, basically make the game the way that they want so that we can experience it. And that we shouldn't have these knee-jerk reactions to a brand new feature or a gameplay change in a beta stage of a game where everything is subject to change. I think that's really important that a lot of us realize, is that this game is not made for you. It's not made for me. It's not made for anybody besides Battlestate. This is their baby. This is their passion project. This is the game that they have always envisioned since like before 2016. This hardcore battle simulation game where you, as a player, get to experience you get to experience real battles in, you know, this dystopian Russian city in order to make the player really feel like they are suffering through a painful process of trying to escape this dystopian city. That's what Battlestate wants, and that's what I want, and I hope that's what other people in the community want. But I just hope that you guys who do watch this video can realize that this game is going to be going in a direction, I hope still, that is going to become more punishing and hardcore, and hopefully revitalize that feeling back of the early alpha stages where the gear that you had mattered and a lot of the gameplay wasn't so just hold W key for everything. And I'm not saying that being an aggressive player is a bad thing. It's just that I think players have gotten too comfortable using it to their advantage while not really knowing that these things are temporary. And these are not the intended experience for how a lot of the combat is supposed to behave in Tarkov. My best example of like what the game will feel like is BSG's trailers, mainly like the Streets trailer that was somewhat released recently, as well as the Raid series, and how a lot of the firefights kind of are encompassed in those videos. you know, a lot of push and pull, a lot of grenades, a lot of suppressive fire, stuff like that. It feels like an argument or a conversation or a debate, not just like a one-sided argument where some guy, you know, just instant peek you around a corner and sprays you down with a gun with no recoil because he's hip firing it while moving really fast. I just want the community, especially a lot of the new guys, to go back and read like the FAQ and watch some of the old trailers and like some of the older gameplay footage of Tarkov, because like that is, in my opinion, the real spirit of the game. That's really what I think Battlestate wants more than anything, is to, again, encompass this very punishing, brutal world for us to kind of try and do our best to survive in. We're not supposed to be the champions of every situation. We're supposed to lose. We're not always supposed to, you know, be the victors of every single situation, because we're not able to predict every situation. That's what keeps the game exciting. That's what keeps the game interesting, and what, in my opinion, is the reason why I keep coming back and why I think many other players keep coming back to the game. I think once 12.12 gets released and we finally get inertia and somewhat significant gameplay changes to the way players move and other bits of gameplay, which potentially will make the game more tactical and less played like Apex Legends or Call of Duty, I think that will start to revitalize the game's true core audience again. And sadly, it will turn a lot of people away from the game who are kind of used to this like W key, you know, Chad play style. And, you know, mind you, like, I know a lot of you guys in the comments are probably like, oh, the cheaters, oh, the desync, oh, this or that. You're going to kind of throw in your 2 cents. But to be honest, like, I don't think a lot of you guys understand how development works. I don't think a lot of you guys have ever worked with developers before. And I want to speak for all of you, because I know a lot of you have your own lives and experiences, but a lot of you guys try to throw in more negativity somehow in order to make yourself feel better, in order to try and drag other people down to your, you know, negative level of thinking, because you want the game to be good. I want the game to be good. We all want this game to be cheater and lag free, but that's just not the reality. And trying to throw out these ridiculous expectations for Battlestate to just like fix it and make it go away is completely unrealistic. And we have to just have the patience to understand that this game is in a beta. Not everything's going to be perfect. Things are going to change, either for the better or for the worst. And a lot of that is just kind of subject to your own perception at the end of the day. That's all I really have for my thoughts on the current state of the game and where I think it's going. I'm really excited for the future moving forward. It doesn't really seem like there's going to be a lot of new content this year, depending on whether or not they can, you know, get 12.12 out in a timely manner, as well as Lighthouse and a couple other things. But hopefully you guys liked the video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you guys want more. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.